All right, so we had to hurry up and just hit record because just I make this mistake on too many podcasts. We just start getting into it before, and I'm like, hold on, stop. And my friend, you were just saying we've been talking about it. It's the most under celebrated, represented, whatever you want to call it, month. And I don't try to get too much into these Hallmark months. Everybody's making them
Right.
up for their different causes or whatever. But this one is important to us, and that is Men's Mental Health Month.
That's right.
And so much of this when I work with men, you know, so much of this is wrapped in purpose or a lack thereof or a misunderstanding of what that purpose is. And for a society that has spent the past few decades being very active at telling men what we shouldn't be and just
Yeah.
focusing on, like other groups basically and demonizing, us, you're starting to see, a resurgence of men going and taking a step back and saying like, no, what does it mean to be a man in a healthy way? Like
Yeah.
forget what society is telling me. Like, what does that mean to me, and what is the output of that? Talk to me a little bit about the revelation that you had, because I thought it was so good because at face value it seemed like there was nothing wrong with that. It actually seemed
Yeah.
admirable.
Yeah.
And then you realize the truth. So talk to me about that.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. And it was a pivotal moment for me. And it wasn't even that long ago. Right. So, here
Yeah.
I am. Yeah. So in a conversation with my therapist slash counselor, however people term that, we were just talking about like what I felt like was the primary purpose of my life. Like when would I feel that my life has been, the purpose of my life has been, you know, I'm moving in the direction of fulfillment of the entire purpose, right?
Mm,
And I have, we have all of the, there's some theological purposes that, come into play and things like that. But for me at the moment, at least the way I was feeling on that couch, it was, I said, hey, I said it, and I said it as if it were a noble thing, and I actually felt and believed it was a noble thing. I said, well, for me, I have 6 kids, I have a wife. Like, if I could know now that they're all well taken care of, set up and situated for life, healthy and fulfilling
right.
lives, productive lives, I'm done. Right? Like that is the my purpose has been accomplished.
Right.
And I said it, and I was just like almost like I felt like internal drop the mic as if I'd said something, like,
Therapist,
we,
you're thinking you're about to get a pat on the back, right? Oh,
right.
like, come on, you
Yeah.
man. Like, oh, more guys thought like you. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be like, "Wow, you've come a long way in these 12 years I've been working with you." But instead, right, like he basically called me out and helped me to peel back the layers of what it is I said, the origin of those things as beliefs, and it turns out like
Mm,
it is woefully understating why I'm here and what my actual purpose is, and it's not. It does not fund its extinction, or it's not extinguished in the success of my kids, or the happiness of my wife, or any of these sorts of things. Like there's much more to me. There's much more value that is inherent and not externally measured. And I was missing that, and I had been missing that for
mm.
quite some.
Yeah, because there's nothing wrong. If anything, I would say that's an essential part of purpose,
Oh,
especially as a man.
absolutely.
So it's like
Yeah.
it's like that's where I think so many men, myself included, God knows I've wrestled with that of like I am just here for all of them. I am here to make sure that I protect, that I provide, that I do all the care stuff. Like that's such an easy mentality for us to get sucked into. But I'll never forget. It plays into this thing that I was at my one of my best friend's wedding. I'm in the wedding, and I end up talking to his grandma. I just met her. It's actually his great. I think it's his great grandma, and
Mhm.
we were just joking around about one of the groomsmen. He was a little lost. Let's put it that way in his
Yeah.
life and what he was doing right now. And she just goes, "Man, that man is like a broke hand. Can't do nothing with it."
Oh, wow.
And
Wow.
I started laughing. But then later I was thinking about it and I was like, man, isn't that just a sad reflection of how society views men? in general. Nobody would ever say that about a woman or a child. You know,
Right.
it's like if we are not useful, we inherently have no value. That's the message that I
Right.
think is portrayed to men that gets into the exact mentality that you were just talking about. It's like, no, that is an important part of it, but it's just part of your purpose.
Just
So
just part.
keep going down what the realization was. It's like
Yeah.
you thought that was it, you thought that was good, you thought you were crushing it, and
Yeah.
then he challenged you, and your therapist came in and said, "Nope, that ain't it. There's more
Right.
to it."
Yeah.
Unravel
That
what
ain't it.
that looked like.
Yeah, that ain't it. There's more to it. There's more to you, right? There's
Mhm.
more to you than your utility, right?
Yes. Oh, dude,
Was
that's
the
so well said.
what that was the essential message, and you know, I struggled a bit to really, you know, because he was kind of not teasing out, but like sort of helping me. He was kind of like, you know, calling me to deeper thought
Mm.
around what more to me than utility might there be, right? And he was, you know, he's known me for 12 years, so he, you know, he was, you know, he was able to speak to some of the times like it's, you know, I do individual with him periodically, and then we do couples with him as well.
Mm.
Um,
Love that.
and there've been so many instances where the thought and the sentiment, you know, from my wife, and the thought and the sentiment from my kids has been like, your presence is transformational to each of us as an individual and to our family collectively. What it turns out is that it's not that the message that I'm more than my utility hadn't been told to me. It's there was something that was blocking my ability to believe it, right?
Mm.
And so that's actually what it ended up being, is like from that point on through for the next several sessions, it was really an exercise in walking through the origins of the belief block for me in terms
Ah,
of
okay.
purpose and what I was here for. So it wasn't that anybody was reinforcing that in my close life. If I looked at those closest to me, if I took them at their word, if I watched how they responded and reacted to me as a human in a space where I wasn't being useful in any way, shape, or form, that alone could prove what I believed to be my sole purpose wrong. But
Mm.
there was something else, and it was something in me that was preventing me from actually even believing that. And not only that, but because that block was there, I wasn't believing that I was more than my utility. But there was a lot of other things I found out that I wasn't believing that
What
were true
was
about
it? Was it a singular block or was it a multifaceted block?
it. It was a multifaceted block, and it was longitudinal, right? So it's a block like we ended up going back to 8-year-old Duan, right?
Good old
And
fashioned
talk,
daddy issues. I love it.
that's it. Yeah. Or yeah.
It's
Or
the
just
joke, but it's like, guys, this is where we're gonna end up. I'm sorry.
yeah, or yeah, it
It's
was
the
just
truth.
or just environmental, right? Like
Right.
how I
Yeah,
grew
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Where
I say daddy issues as an
yeah,
encompassing thing, but like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm totally with you.
because for me and my upbringing, like I mean, there were some things that were just like absolutely essential that I learned and live according to, based on the time frame and the place and all of those things that I was.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah.
I have for whatever reason I had held on to so many of them into today's era that
Mm.
no longer serve me at all, or they aren't even necessary, right? So
Yeah.
it's like, if you live, you grow up most of your life living in, a rural area, right? There's some habits you pick up, some ways of being that you pick up that, when you move into the city in your adulthood, those aren't useful to you anymore, but they're just
That's
how
right.
you move. They're how you get through life. And until somebody stops and says, "Hey, Stephen, like, why are you still doing that? Or why are you still responding to that way? Like, you're not there.
Oh
That
yeah.
threat no longer exists. Those
I
aren't the
talk about
conditions
this.
anymore." You know what I'm
This
saying?
is a very silly one, but it just shows you the level of like the impact it can have. Okay. I've got plenty of money. Money's not my problem. I can go out and buy snacks. Okay. I can afford
Yeah,
snacks. I'm doing all right for that. Okay.
yeah,
I grew up in a household of 5 kids. We did not have a lot of money. Okay. Lower middle class. Never had to worry about the lights coming off, but at the same time, definitely, wasn't a lot of money for
yeah,
like all my clothes are hand me downs. Let's put it that way.
yeah,
So with 5 kids around, I'm the oldest, I've got 3 younger siblings, all that other stuff. When snacks would get brought around, like, my dad loves Swiss rolls, so that was like a special dessert for us, the Little Debbie's. And when those would come around, what we would do when we would see those being brought back from the store, you would get one to go eat right then, and you would take another one and you would hide it somewhere in the pantry because otherwise, like everybody's going to come behind you and these things are going to be gone like that. So
Yeah.
literally for years, you could find like random snacks like hidden in different parts of the pantry, like all over the place. This was probably about 2 years ago. I had this crazy realization, right? My kids are 8 and 5. If I put anything, my wife's not even that tall. I can put anything on the top shelf in plain view. They can't see it, right? Or couldn't
Yeah.
get to it even if they could see it. And I realized I was still hiding snacks in my own pantry as a grown ass adult man. And I never even thought about it. It wasn't even a thing
Yeah.
I thought of. But then when I realized I was doing it, because my wife saw it, she goes, "Why are you putting that back there?" Took it out of the box. I just stuck it in there, total out of habit. She's like, "Why are you putting it back there? What are you doing?" And I was like, I literally just stopped. I was like, "I don't know. I don't know why I put it back there."
That's
And when I
the
thought
trip.
about it, it was, I realized as I went deeper, really what it came down to was this mentality of scarcity that I had,
Yeah.
and it's so funny because I consider myself a very growth minded person. But one of my favorite books is Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's
Yeah.
so underrated. Highly recommend people check that out. But what she talks about is that, look, you have growth mindsets, you have limited mindsets, but it's not a one or the other. It's not a, oh, I'm totally a growth minded person. No, it's a constant back and forth.
That's
And
right.
sometimes you're growth minded in some areas, sometimes you're limited in others. So that was just an area to where I had to realize for myself, and it played out in other areas of my life. And I was like, man, I really do have some limited mindsets here. I'm still hanging on to. They were blocks.
Yeah.
So
That's right.
so
Yeah.
important to just kind of go through and spend a little time on
Yeah.
us, digging
Yeah.
digging through that.
Absolutely.
So good.
It was never something that I would have thought about independently, right? Because it was just like, and part of it, for years it'd be like, well, that's just who I am, or that's just how I'm built, or
Yeah.
that's the cloth I'm cut from, and all of these sorts
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that. Hey,
They
well,
don't make them
listen,
like me anymore.
yeah, listen, Dewan. Well, I have to tell you, in 2025, you're built wrong. Hard pill to swallow, but transformational again to my life and relationships. Once that unlock was unlocked.
what when you figured out what the blocks were, right, and
Uh-huh.
going through that, because I think a lot of guys don't. I think when we talk about mindset in general, this is something I deal with as a coach that I try to tell people. I'm like, listen, we're starting with mindset, and I'm going to call it out right now. I know that feels cliche,
Yeah.
but it's true. It all starts there, and eventually people, when they have a breakthrough, they eventually go, "Oh my gosh, you're right. It was mindset."
Hmm.
I love stories where people get to this is what happened after. Like, we hear a lot of this was the breakthrough story, but then what was the impact? So for you, like, what has the impact been in the short time frame since you had this unlock? What are some tangible things that people
Yeah.
can look forward to be like, listen, if you invest in that time and you get in there and do some you work, this is what could potentially happen.
Yeah. Right out of the gate, some months after that, like the notice, right, the recognition that I'm not anxious in certain
Ooh,
scenarios, right? Like I'm not
that's big.
looking for what should I be doing here, right?
Mm,
There must be something like, or if someone calls my name, or if I get a phone call, or if I get a text, like, okay, I would move into, okay, someone needs me to do something mode. And you can imagine if that's the disposition you bring to a conversation that's just starting, what that does to the frame and the tenor of that conversation, right?
interesting. Absolutely.
So with that being gone, right? With that being like not the predisposition I come to the call with, or come to the response to my name call, or response to any of these relationships that are close to me, um, I feel more lighthearted relationships in those spaces, right?
Wow. Okay.
I feel a lot less obligation, or this it's self-imposed obligation to try to
Mm,
figure out, like, where can I help, right?
Did
What
you
can I
did you
pay?
ever used to feel like that what you're saying is very common, for some guys. Did you ever used to feel like um not necessarily lonely, like you didn't have people around you, but lonely from the perspective of, man, people only call me because they need me to fix something.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that I always had like a keen sense that this was the way I was wired, right? Like,
Okay.
if right versus like people were literally, like I never felt like a consistent sense of being used, as it were.
Okay.
But from my mindset at the time, when I looked out over the landscape of the relationships that I had, it was difficult for me to identify one that was just a relationship based on my personhood.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with that. That makes sense.
Yeah. So I couldn't put those things together. Um, but what was disjointed became jointed through these sessions, and I started to recognize that like there are a great many of my relationships that are just I care about you. I want to be in a relationship with you, a friendship with you, a partnership with you, a collaborative team with you because of who you are and by virtue of who you are, the things that you say can add value here. But
Mm.
with or without that value, like there is value in just our relationship. So like it's really complex and sort of scrambled. But at the end of the day, like it was just uh, this pressure was sort of off, especially after I realized that it was my own
Wow.
pressure to myself. Right.
Well, I mean, it's like they say, happiness is based on the level of our expectations, right? So,
Right.
I mean, so much. I know I've struggled with this in my own life of being like, man, I'm a go getter, I'm a goal setter, and when I put my mind to do something, like, good luck stopping me, you know.
Right.
And I've always viewed that as this strength, and just like any strength, though, it's a double edged sword. There's a different side
Right.
to it, especially if it gets out of balance. And for years, an area that I struggled in was, yeah, Steven, you're accomplishing a lot of stuff. You're hitting all the sales goals. I mean, life, at face value is going well. I'm married, you had a kid at this point, like all that. But it was just this matter of like, I didn't, I had forgot what rest was. I had forgot what fun was to a certain degree, and
Yeah.
what that meant for me. And I didn't realize it, but I got so caught up in accomplishment that then that just ended up leaving me what sounds like in a very similar place of where you were of like, well, I am providing. Every other financial checkbox, looks pretty good. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's it for me. I guess I'm in the 30s and I just pick up golf and a World War II fascination, and then we just go from there, right? Like,
Yeah. That's
uh,
interesting. Yeah. It's and it's amazing, right? Because there's part of me that throughout all of the breakthroughs I've had, like in life, marriage, fatherhood, counseling, work, all of those things. Like there's this little part of me that's just like, wow, if I could have experienced this in my 20s, then I would be. How far along would I? And all of those
yeah.
things like that. But like, there's also peace in the recognition that like the breakthrough that happens today was the breakthrough that was meant for today, and your
Mm,
preparation for that breakthrough is based on all that you've lived up until today, right?
it's
Uh,
good.
that's just been giving me a tremendous amount of peace. I mean, it's ultimately like, you know, it's ultimately, I mean, it's a repackaging, right? It's like or an extrapolation of like everything happens for a reason, everything happens at the right time, all of these things like that. Um, I've become to embrace and find a great amount of peace in it.
So let me ask you this. One thing that I talk about a lot with people is something that I have. It's a concept called the contrarian investment portfolio.
Hmm.
And I actually had somebody on my LinkedIn just ask me this question today, and I just got carried away and gave them a massive breakdown. They probably didn't want in the replies, but you got it. It's there.
Yeah.
Um, and basically, what that is there's three different buckets of investment that I view, and that's conventional, unconventional, and you. And
Yeah.
conventional is normally what everybody thinks of with investing. It's stocks, it's real estate, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Unconventional would be things like art, collectibles. We were talking about your beautiful painting from Senegal, behind
Yeah.
you earlier. Like all of these, that would be under unconventional, um,
Yeah.
uh, the bucket. But the bucket that people really don't think of as a form of investment is the U bucket. And to
Yeah.
me, the U bucket is your health. It is your marriage. It is your skill set, your
Yeah.
capacity to provide value into the workplace and increase your earnings, your knowledge, different things like that. It's an
Hmm.
investment in fun. I mean, like that's one thing I didn't even have down. It's like, dude, am I enjoying? I don't know how much time I have left. Am I enjoying this? Okay, great, go for it. So,
Yeah.
so that's what the investment in you is, and I think it's so underrated. I think that men view that as something that you give up on, especially when you start having a family, that the
Hmm.
investing in me is something I start to give up on for the sake of my family. I'm going to sacrifice my time, and I'm just
Yeah.
only ever going to do what my wife wants. I'm going to sacrifice my time, and I'm only ever going to do stuff for my kids. I have a
Yeah.
friend, he freaking hates Disney, okay? Does not enjoy going to Disney. What did he get his daughter and his wife for Christmas? A freaking annual Disney pass, right? And every time, because they enjoy it. And I'm like, man, you could have just got them tickets to go once. You didn't have to do an annual pass. And now
Right.
he goes down there multiple weeks a year because he feels like, well, I bought it, so we got to get our money's worth. And I'm like, you're miserable. Like, what are you doing? It's June in Florida. Nobody wants to go to Disney in June in Florida, even if
Right.
you like Disney. It's so hot. So
Yeah.
I see that as a thing to where men lose sight of that bucket of investment, the you side. And
Yeah.
that impacts not just the ethereal things that we're talking about, like our spirit and our mindset and our mental health. This does affect that. It affects how much freaking money you make, man.
Yeah. For
If you
sure.
aren't if
For
you
sure.
aren't learning AI, if you aren't investing in you, if you're not learning how to be more emotionally intelligent for management, all that, it's like that's impacting your earnings
Yeah.
potential. So my question to you is, what have you found over the years as you've been going on this journey?
Yeah.
Obviously your investment in therapy and self work is admirable. You've been doing it, on and off for 12 years. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Me and my wife, we check in with a marriage counselor every so often because, hey, stuff happens and we just want to, whether things are good or things are bad, that's an investment that,
Yeah.
guess what, has financial ramifications.
No question
If
about
it
it.
doesn't go well,
Yeah.
that's going to cost me a lot. If it does go well, studies show that people who stay married earn way more than people who don't, or people
Yeah.
who stay single. So,
Yeah.
what kind of investments are you doing in you for guys out there who are, whether they're struggling or whether things are going great, and they're like, how do I level up? What are the things that you found that have been investments in you that have really made a difference in your life?
Yeah. I think that's a great question. I love the question too, and the framing of it because it's you're talking about it from the perspective of like everything: fun, health, mental health, education, skilling, lifelong learning, all of these things like that. So I've never looked at like lifelong learning and pursuing new ways to educate myself. I've never actually looked at that as an investment. That actually is like just who I am, right? Like
Yeah.
that will always be a part of me. It's like, when some people are like, "Hey, can we watch a movie?" I'm like, yes. Well, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm reading this article. I've always been some sort of nerd in that way. So but that counts, right? I think one of the things that over the years of marriage, and I've been married today. You know what? This is funny. I thought I was married for 23 years. My wife was like, "Dude, we've been married for 22 years today." And so I was off that year. I was rushing
at,
it.
le- at least you thought it was longer. It's like, babe, time flies when you're having fun. What can I say?
Right. Yeah. So I've been married for 22 years today. Been with my wife for 24 years so
Today,
far.
man, that's freaking
Yeah.
amazing.
So we have both like come to respect the need for different types of investments for each of us individually. For me, it is
Ooh, this
fitness,
is good.
it is wellness, right? Like I don't have to, but like there's a part of me that's just like I'm undone or uneasy if I haven't worked out throughout a course of an entire day. That might
Mm,
look it might look like, hey, I haven't actually got a chance to work out. Can we take our walk? Like we'll do what I call wifey
Okay.
walks. We'll do a walk and it'd be like 3-4 miles, and that satiates all kinds of things, right? Obviously, my
Mm.
investment into my own health, mental health, and well being, because mental health is tightly tied to me moving my body. We both now
I'm at the point
recognize that,
to where I don't even consider mental health and physical health like separate anymore. I think it's
right.
actually a mistake that we even delineated because I think you and I both
Yeah.
know that lifting weight solves a lot of head problems.
Oh my goodness, right? And
Yeah.
so, but it was a while. Like we've been married for 22 years. Like it hasn't
Yeah.
always been that was an understood situation. Like you can
Mm.
take a rest day, right? I I can, but it's gonna have ripple effects through everything else that happens in the course of my life.
Interesting. Okay.
Right. So in one investment is like really making sure that I have no excuse for working out. I've got a Peloton, I've got a rower, I've got weights in the garage. I'm a member of a CrossFit gym. I have a bicycle, I road cycle. Like there's no way I got a treadmill right here. Right. There's no way.
He's ready to go.
Right. Because that's an investment that I'm not willing to forego. Right.
Well, with
Other
six kids,
areas.
you better stay in good shape.
Right. Other areas of investment are, again, investment into, uh, and you're talking about for me is like fun. Like what do I
Mm.
find fun, and how can I make sure that I'm experiencing that in such a way that the results of that on me also impact my kids, my family, my wife, my relationships,
Mm.
right? And so there's a few things that I do purely for fun. Some of them are very weird to others in terms of, is that fun? Like
What's a weird? Give me a weird one.
I like watching mafia movies and documentaries, right? And to me,
Okay.
that's extremely fun, right?
I
Right.
mean,
And
there's some
so,
amazing ones, and now I have to ask, like, what's one of your favorites?
oh, The Godfather,
Okay, I should have. I mean, obviously, yeah.
yeah,
Give me a
one and two,
non-Godfather one. What's
yeah,
one people might not know about? A lesser known one that you think was fantastic.
a lesser known mafia movie or
Godfather's a
documentary.
masterpiece.
Yeah, Godfather was nuts. I don't know if there's one that's lesser known. Like I've just all of them are pretty well known, I think, except like I have my mother-in-law who knows this about me. One of my birthdays, she bought me an entire box set of like actual mafia members and families documentaries on the history of them and the
Oh,
individual.
that is cool.
So that was cool, and I don't know anybody else who has that. So maybe
No,
that's
that's
one of
really. I mean, that's some great dinner conversation right there.
right.
Absolutely.
But the fact that she knows that about me indicates, so that's a fun area. Like for me, riding my
Okay.
bike is literally fun. So I got hooked on cycling because at the top of the pandemic, I just was like, yo, I got to get out the house. I bought a bike. I started riding. The very first time, Stephen, that I rode down a steep hill,
Mhm.
it literally threw me back to my childhood, riding my bike and taking my hands off and screaming. And
No, dude, that
it
is
was
so
one of
cool.
the first times that I was just like, I am having untethered fun right now
Oh, that is
doing
so
this,
cool.
right? And so that extends to like, how can I extend that to like my kids? So we play pickleball and the kids, all ages,
Oh
like play
yeah,
fun, right? And
fun.
so that's another investment into who I am, which pays off for everybody, my employer, my wife, my family, my kids, my friends, right? Everyone gets the benefit of Dewan invested in himself just as they do Stephen invested in himself.
One of the things that one of the biggest life changes that we made probably maybe 3, 4 years ago, something like that. I read this book called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And there's another book that came out at the same time, similar title, I forgot, To Hell with the Hurry, I think it was. Both of those
Yeah.
are incredible reads. Basically, what it was talking about, though, was how they were both based off of the a different perspective that I had never thought about from the life of Jesus. And basically, what it was showing is just like, hey, guess what? Love cannot coexist with hurry, and I thought that was super interesting. And they gave real life examples, that were in the Bible and also in like modern day. But the thing that was so impactful to me was this idea of taking an entire day for nothing but rest and fun and joy and just doing the things that you love. And that was such a foreign concept to me because I'd be like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, I'm going to take like 2 hours here, but then I'll get a little bit of work done here. Or yeah, I'll do this or whatever the case may be. And the idea of taking an entire day almost felt wasteful in some
Yeah.
ways, right? So, but we tried it because I was like, there's something to this. I can't deny that I was intrigued. And basically, the change that we made: no chores, no screens. And when I say no chores, we're not taking this like crazy. I got 3 kids. They're 8 and 5, and they are little like hurricanes. Okay, so we pick up the house. All right, but we're not doing like big cleanings or anything like that on Sundays anymore. Now Sunday is just, what are we going to do today that is going to be fun? It's going to be joyful. It's going to be fulfilling. It's something that we want to do. And it's just a day dedicated to life. And dude, when I say like, I didn't, I know my neighbors now. Like that's kind of a
Yeah.
weird thing to
Yeah.
say.
That's crazy.
Like,
Yeah.
we'll just be outside. Like when we first started doing it, it was the craziest thing. We ended up, I've known this neighbor for 2 years. Great guy. Never, because I'm always in a hurry. You have those quick conversations on the sidewalk, and he just goes, we're sitting outside talking for 50 minutes. He goes, hey, pool's filled up. You want to bring the kids and you want just grill out? And I was like, yeah, we got nothing to do.
Yeah.
It was
Let's do it.
it was an insane feeling, and we had a great time. And my relationship with that neighbor is on a whole different level now, kind of a thing. And it's just like that was only possible because we set aside a day for life.
Yeah.
It never would have happened otherwise. It's not
Bro.
about, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter how close or proximity we're, if we don't create space in our life to allow stuff like that to happen, it's not going to. And that's one of the things that if I could encourage people out there, if you are struggling with anxiety, if you are struggling with depression, you are trying to get things back on your life, create space first
Yeah.
for you to figure out what you need to do to operate. Okay, because
Yeah.
more than likely you're just feeling overwhelmed. A lot of times,
Yeah.
a lot of depression is actually overwhelm. If you were to like really get down to the root cause of it, and it's
Yeah.
like create some space for yourself, and
Yeah.
then if you don't know what else to do, I would say baseline operating: get to the gym, go work out, get a good workout in. Don't have a gym membership? Fine, go on a run, drop down and do
Yeah.
push-ups, whatever the case is, something like that. Next, sunshine outside. Touch grass, like literally touch grass,
Yeah.
get some sunshine. And
Yeah.
then once you've done that, 1 in 10 men say that they face extreme loneliness, which breaks my heart. And they define
Yeah.
extreme loneliness as if something bad were to happen to them, they feel like they have nobody to call. So what I tell men, and that's who, if you were listening to this, if you're a man that feels like that, my advice to you is this: you go be the friend to somebody else that you wish you had.
Yeah.
Because so many, you go initiate it, because I wish somebody was that for you, and you might even have it and you don't see it. A lot of times that's actually normally the case because we get blocks, right?
Yeah. That's real.
But you identify the person you want to be that kind of a friend to, go be it, and watch how quickly it gets reciprocated. So to
Yeah.
me, it's like, if we're, all the things that we talked about, because I know we only got a couple minutes left,
Yeah.
if you're somebody out there and you're struggling and you're listening to this, and it doesn't matter if you're a guy or a girl, this works in both worlds. If you were struggling with depression, anxiety, loneliness, I can't recommend, in my mind, what is a more proven 3-step process that can literally change your life in one day. You can do all those things in one day. Go
Yeah.
to the gym, get outside,
Yeah.
and make a phone call to somebody, and don't ask them for anything other than just to talk and see how they're doing and
Yeah.
reciprocate.
Yeah, I love that, and I think it was the first or second day of June. I can't remember which one. I made a post around men's mental health specifically, but again,
Mm.
probably equally applicable. But in that, there was also some resources that I called out that can be extremely helpful to somebody who finds himself in that situation. A man specifically this month, right, and ongoing, but
Yep.
also anybody. And a lot of these are helps that have been stigmatized, right? Like so, for me, it's
Yep.
just like I have found great solace and relief from those steps you just laid out. I have friends who that wasn't enough, right? And they needed other types of intervention. And
Right.
what I want to say too is like there should be no stigma around um, using medication if that's what gets prescribed to you, and that's
Absolutely
the path
not. Right.
you need to take, right? Like but speak to someone, get help, like find the routes, like reach out to someone, But absolutely, like even finding someone like, so, I talked about the wifey walks, right? The origin of the wifey walks for me and my wife was that I find it very difficult to have extraordinarily deep and serious conversations about real things stationary, right? When we would
Interesting. Okay.
when we would take walks, my cortisol levels were down. I wasn't as defensive in conversations
Ah,
that might have sparked defense before. We had way more open conversations. I received feedback and other things in a
that's
much
really interesting.
calmer, cooler
Yeah.
way on walks. And so we just make it a habit to, as frequently as we possibly can in the evenings, even after my workouts, after my bike rides, we just walk. And now, just like counseling for us, it's sometimes maintenance, sometimes repair. But
Mm.
those things in motion for me make for more robust conversations where I withhold less. Right? It's not that I'm withholding, but I withhold my emotionally because that's what I felt safe doing. That's released and relinquished in a different way through our walks, and that's been going on for quite some time now. And so now it can translate to, like, if I'm stationary, I'm even better equipped to have those conversations because of what has happened to me mentally, psychologically, through those walks and those talks and engaging and finding out it's actually I don't have a problem engaging, and she doesn't have a problem receiving my engagement. That gave
Wow.
me a that gave me a level of peace and ability to have those conversations in other contexts. But the wifey walks were the start of that, even. So whatever the method is, whatever the means is, I would hope that anyone who's hearing this, who's in any of those situations, that they would avail themselves to some of those resources. I'll tag you in that post just in case you want to make some of those resources
Find that
available.
post for those that are listening. If you're looking for anything, I'm going to have those links in the description of the show notes of this. So if you're
Yeah,
interested in what those are, I will put the show notes in there. Please go check them out. Every single thing you're saying, man, comes down, and I know we can wrap with this. It comes down to that. I believe it's an old Greek philosophy saying of just know thyself.
yeah,
Two of the most powerful words ever put together, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
to that, I would say I might add just a tiny bit to it. Know thyself, but don't get too caught up in it. Okay,
Yeah,
because I think
that's real.
that sometimes in the day and age of what that of what we live, I'm not knocking therapy or therapists or anything like that. They are fantastic at their gift. They do great
Yeah,
work. Nothing about that. But I do believe that if we go too far inward without any external action towards
yeah,
it, at some point we're just feeding into a pity party, right?
yeah.
I
It
like,
can be that.
regardless of how serious it is, it's like there is no value of doing all of this work if you do not have some sort of positive action that you take from it. And sometimes
Yeah,
I think that people actually do the inward work and then they just stop there and they use it as a justification for their actions. Well, I couldn't do this because I experienced this trauma. I can't do this because, somebody made me feel this way one time and like that just wasn't it. It's like that's a premise that I reject and say no. You have a responsibility that when you've done that work that you transform that into action because
yeah,
that's where the fruit comes. So
yeah, yeah. And I would agree and say, and everybody's timeline for that is different, right?
totally,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. But
So yeah, but
man, we
that's
could
great.
we could keep going on this. I know. I,
Yeah,
I
for
love
sure.
I love chatting with you. The wisdom, the insights, the work that you do, it all shows. For those of you that are wondering, you can find one on LinkedIn. He's always
Sure.
posting some great stuff on there. It's like we were talking about earlier. It's like one thing business one time a week, and then just really just fascinating is probably the best word I can use. Just
I
thoughtful
appreciate it.
posts for the rest of the week. So thank you, my friend, for what you're doing and taking
Yeah.
the time to be on this.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me, man. It's been great.
All right, no problem, man. We'll talk soon.